The 2026 NFL Draft is coming to Pittsburgh April 23rd through the 25th, right here on the North Shore outside of Acrisure Stadium. I still call Heinz Field. I live here. And they're expecting somewhere between 500,000 to 700,000 people to show up. To put that into perspective, Detroit drew almost 775,000 people when they hosted in 2024 and generated over $213 million in economic impact in just 3 days. So when I say this is a big deal for Pittsburgh, I mean it. But here's what nobody is talking about. What does an event like this actually do to the local real estate market? More specifically, what does it mean for you if you're thinking about buying or selling in Pittsburgh right now? That's exactly what we're getting into today. I want to give you the real picture, not just the hype, because there are genuine opportunities here, and there are also ways people will get this completely wrong. So first, let's put this into context. Pittsburgh hasn't hosted the NFL Draft since 1948. This is the first time in nearly 80 years that the entire NFL, all 32 teams, every top prospect, and over 50 million television viewers worldwide will have their attention locked on this city for 3 straight days. The draft will be broadcasted live on NFL Network, ABC, and ESPN. That's a global stage. And Pittsburgh was recently named one of National Geographic's best of the world's destinations for 2026. The city already had momentum before the draft was even announced. So when you layer a national sporting event on top of a city that's already being recognized on the world stage, something interesting starts to happen. Perception shifts. And in real estate, perception drives everything. Before we talk about the NFL Draft's impact, you need to understand where Pittsburgh stands right now, because foundation matters more than the event. Pittsburgh's median home price sits around $234,000 from early 2026. The national median is closer to about $420,000, so that gap is enormous. Pittsburgh is the only major US metro where it's actually cheaper to buy a starter home than it is to rent. That's a rare combination of factors that keep attracting buyers from higher cost markets. Home values have appreciated roughly 4 to 5% annually over the past 20 years. No boom, no bust, just steady, consistent growth. The economy is anchored by what locals call eds and meds. Universities like Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, plus one of the largest hospital systems in the country being UPMC. That means job, population stability, and consistent housing demand. Now layer in the South Hills, specifically communities like Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, Peters Township, South Fayette, and Bethel Park. They operate at a completely different price point and pace than the city overall. For example, Upper St. Clair and Peters Township are among the most supply-constrained markets in the entire region. Inventory is severely limited. Demand from out-of-state buyers, especially families relocating from areas like New York, New Jersey, DC, and the West Coast, that remains really strong. That's the baseline. That's the foundation. Now let's talk about the event on top of it. The question everyone is asking if you're a buyer, especially someone relocating from out of state, your first reaction is probably, is this going to spike prices? Short answer, no, not immediately. This isn't a housing bubble event, but here's what it does do, and this matters. It puts Pittsburgh in front of an enormous amount of people who have never seriously considered moving here. Think about the profile of somebody watching the NFL Draft. They follow sports, they're curious about cities, and suddenly they're watching Pittsburgh's skylines, the 3 rivers, the bridges, the North Shore, and the neighborhoods. Then they start Googling. They go down the rabbit hole. Some of them have flexible work situations and start asking, why are we paying $600,000 for a house when we could get twice the square footage in Pittsburgh? That curiosity wave builds slowly after the event. It doesn't crash the market in April, but by summer and fall, you start to see it translate into actual conversations, showings, and offers. If you're someone that's thinking, hey, this could be me, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I help people buy and sell homes in our area every single day. And if you need help figuring out where to start, let's schedule a call to get you some clarity on what makes sense for you in your situation. My contact information is going to be down below in the description, and I absolutely love connecting with our viewers here on our channel. So, what do buyers need to pay attention to? Here's what that means practically if you're buying. The areas that will feel this first are the ones people gravitate toward when they're new to Pittsburgh and researching online. South Hills communities consistently rank at the top of those searches. Mount Lebanon's walkability, Upper St. Clair's school district rankings, Peters Township's newer construction and expanding amenities. These are the places that show up when someone searches best suburbs of Pittsburgh. Also to note, the North Hills suburbs, you're going to find areas like Pine Township, North Allegheny, Cranberry, and Wexford. These areas are already competitive. The draft amplifies that competition because it's adding new people to the top of the funnel at exactly the time of the year when the spring market is already heating up. If you're planning to buy in these communities and you're already in the research phase, the timing message is simple. Don't wait for the dust to settle after the draft, expecting a price drop. That's not how this works. The smart move is to get pre-approval locked in early, get clear on your target areas, and be positioned to move when the right property comes available for you. Because prepared buyers win in competitive markets. Reactive buyers, they get squeezed. Now, let me address the biggest mistake I see people make when a big event comes to a city. They chase the event instead of using it. Chasing looks like this. The draft is announced and suddenly you think you need to buy or sell immediately, right now, before the window closes. That's reactive thinking, and reactive real estate decisions are almost always weaker decisions. Here's the reality of how event-driven attention cycles work in a housing market. First comes awareness. People see Pittsburgh on national television, searches spike online, social media lights up on their phone, then comes consideration. People who were already thinking about moving somewhere affordable and livable start to put Pittsburgh on their list. Then comes action. That's when you see the actual market impact, and attention typically lags the event by 3 to 9 months. So the advantage isn't in reacting to the event, it's in understanding where you are in the cycle and positioning yourself accordingly so that way you stay ahead of it. If you're a buyer, that means getting your financing and criteria locked in now rather than scrambling in the fall when competition picks up. If you're watching this and you're seriously considering making a move to Pittsburgh, I want to know where you're at in the process. Are you in the early stage, just researching? Are you getting close to making a move in the next 6 to 12 months? Drop it in the comments. I read every one of them. It helps me make content that actually matches where you are in that process so I can better serve you. So let's be honest about who this matters for and who it doesn't. If you're casually thinking about buying someday and you have no timeline or urgency, this event probably doesn't change much for you. But there's a specific profile for a buyer where this draft creates real measurable impact. It's the relocating family from a high-cost market. They're watching the draft on television. They see a Pittsburgh skyline that just has them in awe. And then they start looking at school district rankings, home prices, and suddenly the math starts working. Those families are exactly who the South Hills is built for. Great schools, desirable communities, suburban feel with easy city access, and a price point that makes their coastal counterparts feel like they found a secret. You're operating in a part of the market where perception drives demand, demand drives competition, and competition determines how fast you need to move. The Pittsburgh South Hills is already in that category. The draft just turns the volume up. One of the most important things I want you to take away from this video is the Detroit 2024 NFL Draft generated almost $213 million in economic impact. But that didn't all land in the weeks immediately after the event. But what hosting the draft did do for Detroit is it cast a wider net of exposure. All kinds of different media outlets reaching different demographics and exposing it to way more people and potential buyers and sellers. And what that does is it changes perception. And like we said before, perception drives everything in real estate. So Pittsburgh's narrative is already positive, but the draft amplifies it to an audience that may not have been paying attention. The people who come here for draft weekend and fall in love with the city, they go home and tell their friends, they bookmark neighborhoods, they want to look at things more closely. Some of them start having serious conversations with their partners about whether or not they should make a move here and whether that makes sense for them. And that process takes time. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. If you're waiting to see a dramatic spike in April, you're looking in the wrong place and at the wrong time. The smart money watches for what happens in the fall. So not every part of Pittsburgh benefits equally from this kind of attention. The areas that see the most impact are the ones that already have strong demand fundamentals and a clear story for out-of-state buyers. In Pittsburgh's South Hills, that means a few specific communities. Mount Lebanon is the most immediately recognizable name for people doing Pittsburgh research. It has a walkable downtown, highly rated schools, and a mix of housing options that appeals to a wide range of buyers. It consistently shows up at the top of the best Pittsburgh suburbs list. Upper St. Clair carries a premium school district reputation. It's the community that shows up when relocating families specifically search for top-rated schools near Pittsburgh. As we mentioned before though, inventory is incredibly tight here. There simply aren't many homes that come available, which means when demand increases, competition gets intense quickly. Peters Township is where you find newer construction and more room to spread out. Families coming from suburban markets on the coast often feel most at home here because the streetscape and housing stock feel a little more familiar to them. South Fayette and Bethel Park round out the conversation with strong schools, better price points, and strong community infrastructures. These communities are not going to be overwhelmed by draft tourists looking to buy homes in April, but in the months that follow, when out-of-state buyers who experience Pittsburgh during draft week start to get serious, these are the zip codes that they're going to target. If you're buying and selling in these communities, you're operating in the direct path of that incoming demand. So I said at the beginning of the video that I wanted to give you the real picture, so let's talk about the downside, because there are real risks to navigate in a market with elevated attention. Risk number one is overpaying. When buyers feel urgency, real or manufactured, they sometimes make emotional decisions. If you're relocating and you feel like the window is closing, you might be tempted to stretch your budget or waive contingencies on a home that doesn't deserve that type of treatment. Don't do that. The Pittsburgh market is competitive in certain pockets, but it is not so frenzied that you need to abandon some common sense. The right home at the right price with proper due diligence will always beat a fast decision you regret. Risk number two is traffic, access, and logistical disruption during event week. If you're planning a housing hunt trip to Pittsburgh, avoid scheduling it during April 23rd through the 25th. Downtown and the North Shore will have significant road closures and congestion. Plan a trip for early May instead when the energy is still high but the crowds have cleared. Risk number three. This is the big picture one. It's assuming Pittsburgh will maintain all of this momentum indefinitely. The draft is a catalyst. It's not a permanent transformation. The fundamentals that make Pittsburgh a great place to live, the affordability, the quality of life, the strong institutions, those existed before the draft and they'll be here after it. The draft is a spotlight, not a foundation. Use it to inform your decisions. Don't let it pressure you into making a decision. So how can you use this draft as a buyer? Well, get clear in your target communities now. If you've been loosely researching Pittsburgh, this is the moment to narrow your focus, get pre-approved immediately. In a competitive market, the buyers who move fastest with the cleanest offers usually win. Understand your budget flexibility in communities like Upper St. Clair and Mount Lebanon. Bidding situations on well-priced homes are common here. Know your ceiling before you're in that moment makes that decision cleaner. Plan your house hunting trip strategically. The best window is late May through July. After the draft, energy has rolled through and before fall competition picks up, you'll see inventory without the chaos of draft week. Work with someone who knows these micro markets specifically. Pittsburgh has over 90 different municipalities throughout the area. General market data tells you almost nothing useful about what's happening in Peters Township or South Fayette. You need hyperlocal expertise, and most importantly, don't let the event create artificial urgency. Pittsburgh fundamentals are strong, whether or not the NFL draft came to town or not. Make your decision on those fundamentals with the draft as a useful context, not pressure. But here's the bottom line on all of this. The NFL draft coming to Pittsburgh is genuinely meaningful. The city hasn't had this kind of concentrated national spotlight in the modern media era. Between 500,000 and 700,000 people coming here in April, tens of millions more will watch on national television. National Geographic already called Pittsburgh one of the best places to visit in the world in 2026. The story being told about the city right now is a good one. And good stories attract people, and people who move to a place with strong fundamentals and affordable housing create lasting demand. That's the opportunity. The risk is reacting emotionally instead of strategically. Overpaying because you feel the window is closing, or sitting on the sidelines waiting for the perfect moment that may not exist. The people who win in a market moment like this are the ones who understand it early, prepare deliberately, and execute with patience. That's the real playbook. If you're thinking about relocating to Pittsburgh and you want to understand exactly what's happening in the South Hills communities, the school districts, the pricing trends, and where the real opportunities are right now, that's exactly what I help families navigate every single day. I'm Tim Phillips with the Phillips team at Keller Williams here in Pittsburgh. I work specifically in the South Hills, including Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, Peters Township, South Fayette, and Bethel Park. My contact information is in the description below. If you want a real conversation about where you fit in this market, reach out directly to me. If you want to keep getting this kind of breakdown where we go deeper on specific communities, pricing analysis, and the details most people miss, make sure you subscribe. The difference between a good move and a great one usually comes down to knowing what other people don't know. Don't forget to like this video, ring the bell, and subscribe as I put out content weekly, and I will see you on the next one.